Ladies and gentlemen, Sahil, Diwan may save us from ourselves. How so?
You want me to dive into things?
Dive.
Great. All right. Well, thank you all for joining. My name is Sahil Diwan. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Softcon Health. And what we have created is the first automated and FDA 510K cleared ear cleaning device on the market. We are first starting with a device for clinicians. So this is being used within audiology, primary care, ENT, in nursing homes and urgent care chains and whatnot. And then we want to take that validation, all this physician support, clinical data, and FDA clearance in the future into the consumer market with a preventative version for home use. So really creating, or I guess growing, this ear care category that can stand on its own next to oral care.
Are you going to be sharing slides? Because
I can go through some slides here.
I'm curious right off the bat if you have competitors.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. So that's actually a good way for me to dive into this. So for those of you who've never had the pleasure, it seems like some of you may have, but this is what an earwax removal procedure looks like today. If you're going to primary care, some other settings, they're going to take this metal syringe or a plastic syringe. This one is called an ear and bladder syringe. It's been the standard of care since 1821 when an otologist decided to use a bladder syringe to clean your ears. It even has a little splash guard on it here. But this has been the standard of care for over 200 years. It hasn't really changed. By far, the standard is the procedure is still performed with a syringe today.
And I will start, this picture of this man looking like he's in great discomfort is not a fair representation of my experience. I'm like, oh my God, thank you.
Oh, got it. Yeah, the relief is instant. Yeah, it is nice. That's the nice thing about the procedure. So the issue with this one today is that it takes 20 to 30 minutes to perform. They have a 30% failure rate with this, and then you're referred out to an ENT surgeon. So that's actually where our story starts, is that my brother growing up, we just thought was this weird kid with too much earwax, but it turns out that's not the case. A lot of people have this issue, and I'll get into that number next. But he would go to his primary care physician every few months to get his ears syringed out. It started with him waking up one morning, couldn't hear out of one of his ears, was freaking out, and my mom's worried about it too. They take him to primary care, and they look in the ear, and they say, don't worry, it's just an impaction, an earwax impaction, we can get it out. So this is what the procedure would look like for him for many, many years. And then a lot of the time they'd fail in primary care to remove the wax with a syringe. It's a blind procedure. It's a difficult procedure to do. It's time consuming. The clinician gets frustrated. So then there are a lot of adverse events with it. They just don't have great tools today for this. And it's a very high volume procedure, about 20 million procedures being performed every year in the United States alone. So then 30% of the time they fail, and you're sent to ENT, who goes in with a microscope and microsuction and removes that wax. So the idea of our device came from him actually going through this procedure and then coming up with an idea to solve his own problem. So the reason why this is a problem for him and other people is because earwax is actually the leading cause of conductive hearing loss and other symptoms like pain, infection, vertigo, and tinnitus. It's a problem that affects. Yeah. So it's a problem that affects 1 in 10 children, 1 in 20 healthy adults, and 1 in 3 people over the age of 65. That translates to about 35 million Americans and about 820 million people around the world. So a very significant issue. And again, it's interesting that 35 million people affected in the US alone, with 20 million procedures actually being performed in the clinic. So people have to go to the doctor for this procedure right now. And that's a really interesting, correlation too. And then on top of this, what we've realized more recently, and I think this is kind of a part of our discussion today of how we found our beachhead market, is that 1 in 3 people over the age of 65 have this issue. And by the way, the reason for this is typically genetic. You produce too much wax, or you have really narrow or bendy canals, and that causes the wax to get impacted. Obviously, if you're shoving Q-tips in there, or just really spending a lot of time with something in your ear, wax will also get impacted. So especially for hearing aid users, this is the number one reason why hearing aid companies actually lose hearing aid sales, because keep in mind, 1 in 3 over 65, they go into the hearing aid clinic, they look in their ear, they have too much wax. If they can't treat them there, for audiologists, it's even more difficult, and they're less used to it than in primary care. They're referring those patients out to ENT, and that can take weeks, if not months, and then they just don't come back. So they're losing a multi-$1,000 hearing aid sale here. And that's all obviously, an extra step for the patient too, and elderly patients with that.
Is
and
your implication that you would like to have audiologists, but would they be able to use this product?
That's correct. And that's actually our beachhead mark, is that we've partnered with some of the hearing aid companies, and we are now deploying in their retail locations where an audiologist or a hearing instrument specialist is using our device to clean out their ears then and there, so they don't have to refer them out. And then the other thing on top of that is that wax is the #1 reason why hearing aids are damaged and sent in for repair. It's about 70% of hearing aids that are sent in for repair are simply damaged because of wax and moisture. So being able to prevent that wax buildup with them coming in regularly to get their ears cleaned, and then in the future with a preventative version at home, would solve this issue for a very expensive device, right? I mean, most of the time you're paying for your hearing aids out of pocket. OTC is going to help that a bit, but they still are very expensive and you want them to work. So a really interesting problem with an audiology that we're solving.
The present standard of care with the syringe, who is licensed to perform that procedure?
Yeah, I mean, typically what you'll see is like the lower level, you'll see an MA in an urgent care setting performing it with a syringe today, or you'll have a hearing instrument specialist in a retail clinic where they're selling their hearing aids, attempting to use a curette, but that's, a little bit, it's kind of like operation. I like to, you're kind of going in there, you're hoping your patient doesn't flinch or move so you don't scrape them up. It's kind of it's a risky procedure to do with a curette or with a syringe for that matter. So that's where we come in with something that's automated and FDA cleared and easy to use.
At the risk of being overly simplistic, does that mean that anybody can do it?
So yeah, so we're
like
with our
device, you need to be a doctor of any kind.
We're cleared for any healthcare professional to use our device. So
healthcare professional,
any licensed healthcare professional. So
okay, so you do need a license. No, pardon me. You do need for the syringe one, you need a license, and for yours, you need a license.
For ours, you need a license. I'm not sure about if they're people.
I don't believe an audiologist is a licensed medical.
They can, yeah. There's a lot of documentation out there about which.
Yeah, audiologists are licensed and they do that regularly.
Oh, I forgot about your big audiology background.
Yeah. Sorry, Sahil, I should have mentioned this earlier. I'm an audiologist.
Perfect. Yeah. So
not clinically, I'm not clinically practicing, but I certainly have been involved in this and know about the topic.
Yeah. So this probably resonates with you then about how many patients are being referred out from that initial setting to an
resonates. I get it.
Yeah, I guess I would say about the the loss of a sale. That's probably more of a delay of a sale, sure. But one that's not closed on the spot, I suppose.
Right.
And then people who do this, you can use a curette carefully. You don't have to hurt people with them, but the wax is sometimes dried and sort of stuck onto the side of the canal, so that could be uncomfortable to remove.
Yeah, clinicians aren't very well trained for the procedures. So that's another big selling point, actually.
Yeah, many aren't. There is training for this. People can have just specifically ear cleaning training.
Sure.
But it's true that the instruments aren't that great. You got a little plastic. The bobby pin is actually pretty close to what a professional might use. It's just a little plastic loop or tiny plastic spoon that you can kind of scoop out with. The wax isn't supposed to be as deep as it is in that illustration. The wax forms a little bit further out of the ear canal, but it gets pushed in. That's why you're always getting warned not to use Q-tips, because you can push the wax in deeper than it belongs.
Sahil, I temporarily took the slides down because Maren and Nellie have comments to make. Maren?
So I. In full transparency, I suggested that Sahil talk today because we've been talking a lot about who your customers are and how important customer discovery is. And while we're talking about this, Joe's comment was great. Sahil, can you say a few words about when we met back in 2015 or 2016, who you thought your customers were going to be for this device?
Yeah, it's a good question. So when we first started, it was always off the idea of what my brother experienced, having to go to primary care a lot of the time, having then to be referred out to ENT. So those were the two markets we were initially focused on. Those are still big markets for us. And we do have primary care customers today and ENT customers. We developed the product mostly with ENTs. But what we found out a little bit later is, closer to our soft launch, which we did about a year ago, we had a lot of audiologists signing up on our website or finding us and reaching out. So we were like, we should probably look into this and what their problems are. And that's when we realized how big of an issue it is, especially for these large hearing aid companies, how much money they're losing from patients being referred out or delaying that initial cost. And then also just the cost of covering the damage of those hearing aids from the wax. So that's where we came in, and in a very small amount of time, we got a lot of strong interest and demand. And that's where we are today, is that we've built up a significant pipeline of large customers, and we're going to go out there after we build up our team and build some more product and start expanding.
When you say
so this was a pretty significant, sorry. So this was a pretty significant pivot from what you thought your initial market and customer database was going to be, or customers.
Yeah, it's a completely brand new beachhead. And audiology is a much smaller market than primary care, but it is a fantastic market for us to start out. And we can learn a lot, we can move a lot faster in this market, and it's, I'd say, in some ways a stronger need for some of those clinicians, because they don't want to send those patients out, and those patients don't honestly want to be sent out. I mean, if you're an audiologist, you should be able to handle that full circle of care right then and there, and you actually look kind of bad if you're not able to. So that's again where we kind of fit in, not just from solving the initial wax issue and also the repair issue, but you should be able to treat your patients fully in that initial point of care.
You mentioned the cost of the damage to the device. Cost to whom? Clearly patient, perhaps, or perhaps not if insurance covers it, but
yeah, it depends on their warranty plan and all that kind of stuff. But it's either you're paying for some kind of warranty on it, extended warranty, or this a cost to the hearing aid manufacturer to repair them too. So it's a frustrating issue.
Source of revenue as well.
For who?
For the manufacturer or for whomever services the damaged thing.
Yeah, it depends on how they package it. They sell it in different ways, but it depends on how they package that ongoing care. But if you can have a patient come in and not just clean their hearing aids, but clean the wax out of their ears, that's kind of what you're getting at. Is that you're just going to see the issue continue to get worse and worse if you're not taking the wax out of their ears when it gets impacted.
Nellie?
So first off, I'm extremely excited by this because my son actually has terrible earwax buildup. We actually thought he lost his hearing when he was a young kid. And I've actually used the home kits trying to keep them clean, and they don't work. He still has to go into the doctor's office to get his ears cleaned. So, very excited about your product. That's really all I wanted to say. But just, I know from experience using those manual ones, they're not easy to use.
Yeah, that's a great point. And that's why we went clinical first, is that you need a product that is used by clinicians and physicians, and you need that clinical data, you need that FDA clearance before you could actually put something in the consumer market that people wouldn't think is a gimmick, right? Because anyone who's had this issue knows that they go out and try things, and they just don't work. They're spending all this money and time, and then you still have to go to the clinician. So that's where we really want to take our time and introduce a product into the consumer market that really does work and prevents the issue at home.
I can tell you all we did was get all wet.
Yeah, and it's messy. It's funny that, that's another big selling point for us, believe it or not, is that nurses or clinicians who do this procedure hate the messiness of it too. It's gross. You're cleaning somebody's earwax out. So having it all fully contained in this device is a nice add-on.
Jan wrote in the comments she wondered if it helps swimmers' ear.
Yeah, it's a good question. We've had a lot of swimmers and surfers reach out to us. And the reason I think they've reached out to us is talking about, the quality of water that's going into your ear, and you might get an ear infection or anything like that. That is not, one of our indications for use, but it's maybe something we'll study with our consumer version and see if that is an issue we can help with. Maybe it's something you clean, you run after you're out surfing or something like that, and it helps clean your ear out so you don't get an infection. But that is not something we're focused on today, and that's not in our indications for use.
Yeah, because I had to use that syringe, and there was algae or something growing in the ear, and it had to be rinsed out, and it was disgusting.
Yeah, I think we'll do some more research there, and I think that's an interesting opportunity to expand into.
That's a reason to leave wax in your ear.
That's a good point. Yeah, wax is, you also want some wax in your ear. You don't want it to be. It's the issue is when you're starting to get impacted.
Rick, I think the solution you're talking about is Murasil. I think I've used it as well, that liquid to try to soften. Is that something that you see as an aid and is helpful? Anything that softens makes it easier, or?
Definitely makes it easier. Yeah, you'll want to soften your wax. There are a lot of kind of popular products like Debrox and other things like Murasil.
That's it. That's the one.
Yeah. They're slow acting. You still need to get the wax out somehow. So you're usually using a syringe or a spray bottle at that point. But yes, it's much easier to remove the wax when it's softened. So
clearly, if I were a VC, I wouldn't have entertained all of these sidebars and taken you way off.
No, it's okay.
But this is a different group, and it's meant for this kind of conversation. But I will say that I've had a few entrepreneurs on in our 150 some odd episodes, and some products just get people like, oh my God, because I'm imagining that as you make your presentations, you get that kind of energy, like I would really love a kind of thing.
Yeah, we had an investor recently join our round where he actually went out. He drove 2 hours in Florida to go to a clinician who had our product and then wrote a whole blog article about his experience because he went to primary care a few months earlier. They failed to remove the wax. He then tried the home stuff, didn't work still. Found out about us through the group that he invests with, and then literally drove 2.5 hours to go to a clinician with our device and get the problem taken care of. So it does make a difference that this is such a common issue, and everybody either has the issue themselves or knows somebody who has the issue. So that does make it easier to pitch and relate to.
It sounds exciting from a marketing challenge perspective. I'm eager to hear about how much funding you have, your distribution, what kind of marketing you're doing, because it does feel it has like a viral element to it. No
It does, yeah. And actually, let me show you guys the product first. So we haven't talked about that yet. So anyway, to sum this up, you mainly have syringes, spray bottles. There are a lot of clinicians who actually use water picks, dental flossers, to clean people's ears. And the reason for this is because we've had so many nurses reach out to us saying that I've been doing this for 20 years and I have arthritis in my hands now from having to use these syringes and spray bottles to do it. And then there was a device called the Welch-Allyn ear wash system that came out in the early 2000s, which was a good product. It was safe. It was relatively effective. The problem with it was that it took a lot of time to set up and clean up. So you actually added more time to your procedure. We know quite a bit about this product because we have the former CEO Welch-Allyn, the president and CEO Welch-Allyn on our board, and also as an investor in our company. And then the other thing I wanted to mention here is that how much ENTs are actually performing this procedure. It's the second highest CPT code billed by volume for ENTs. So
Really?
when we're selling to a healthcare system, we tell them, pull your data, see how many are being referred out from primary care to ENT. And then that's where we fit in. We fit in with your lowest cost provider in your lowest cost settings, like an MA in your urgent care setting, so that you're referring a lot less patients out to ENT.
I'm really pleased that Andreas, who we rarely see, joined us today. Would you tell us what you're working on at Receptus?
Yeah, I don't want to interrupt can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, I don't want to interrupt your presentation here. Yeah, we're a company that does a device that allows you to do ear tubes in an ENT's office setting.
Very
So
cool.
it's basically an automated inserter or a manual inserter that basically allows you to make the incision and insert the ear tube in one surgical pass. And there you can bypass the operating room and general anesthesia and all the things that involves.
That's awesome. We should talk sometime.
Yeah, we've kind of, I don't say we've been following you, but at least have, been intrigued by your product and if there's any synergies between what you're doing and what we're doing.
Are you also based here in Seattle?
We're in the Minneapolis, St. Paul area.
Okay, great. I was going to say there are a bunch of ear care companies here in Seattle, so it'd be fun if you were here too. But yeah, it'd be great if you wouldn't
Remind me
mind.
that I'll look it up while you're talking. His CEO and founder, Steve Anderson, I consider a friend, and he's done an episode with us. So let me get that to you so that you can watch what he shared.
Yeah, and if you wouldn't mind sharing your email too, I'll shoot you an email afterwards.
Yep, I'll do that.
Yeah, that'd be great. And so now let's talk about our product. So it's just easiest to bring up a quick video on it. So you can go check out our website at otoset.com, OTOSET.com. There's a lot of content on here from clinicians who are actually using the product today. So we have ENTs, primary care physicians, audiologists, and even hearing instrument specialists, all of them talking about how they use the product today. And here's a quick demo of the device. It will be a little bit gross, but this is not nearly as gross as some of our videos. So
That's
this
quite a
is
selling point, please.
Yeah. And I'll tell you about the containers too. It's a good story there. But this is how it works, that the nurse is going to tell you about the procedure. It's the combination of irrigation and microsuction at the same time. Then they're going to put on the disposables, which are the ear tips and waste containers per patient, fill it up with body temperature water, place it on the patient's head with those ear tips going into their ear canals, obviously. And then they can select one or both ears here. So they can do a unilateral or a bilateral procedure. So that alone speeds up the procedure quite a lot. And then in a 30-second cycle, water is going to spray into the ear, break down the wax, and all that wax and water is going to come back out into this bottom container. You then take the device off the patient's head, check their ear. If they have a severe impaction, you typically will need to run another cycle. Each cycle is just 30 seconds. And then when you're fully clean, and you'll take the disposables off, wipe the device down, and then you're ready for the next patient. So this is really easy to move between room to room. It doesn't take up a lot of space in the clinic, and you can do 50 patients on a single charge of this device. So not just within audiology and primary care and ENT, but we also have mobile clinicians, mobile audiologists, and mobile primary care physicians who take our device into nursing homes and treat patients in that setting, where Kaiser actually put out an article talking about that over 50% of patients in nursing homes have this issue. And obviously it's not easy for them to go be sent to an ENT. So we think that's also a great opportunity for us to expand into. So most of our effort right now is within audiology, about 60-70% of our efforts in audiology, the remaining amount in primary care and urgent care for now. And then we'll continue to expand with ENTs, nursing homes, the VA, government and military, and even retail clinics like CVS Minute Clinic and so on. So a lot of different places where the procedures perform today. So a lot of expansion opportunities for us. And actually a funny story about the containers is that we used to make them cloudy, so you couldn't see what was coming out of them, but people wanted to be able to see it. So that's kind of part of why we've also gone viral on TikTok. We had a customer out in Indiana, a tiny little town in Indiana, just post him using the device. And he went from 100 followers to over 13,000, and he's gotten tens of millions of views on these videos now. So from a marketing standpoint, there's definitely a lot that we'll start doing here pretty soon. All right, any other questions, or I can jump back a little bit into.
I have a question for you. And I apologize, I had the blue screen of death, so I got kicked out, but I came back in. Regarding sizes, do you have sizes for kids?
It's a good question. So we are starting with an adult version. The device as it is for adults. We do have 2 ear tip sizes, one for a larger canal or average size canal and large canals, and then also one for more narrow and smaller canals. We actually are a C-tip portfolio company. So C-tip is an FDA funded pediatric device innovation program. So we have great access to children's hospitals. We're part of the West Coast portfolio. And we will start developing a pediatric version. So the pediatric version, I would assume, may not be the full headset, but actually a little bit more what our consumer device might be like, which is a one-sided version that you could use on either ear. It would have different pressure options and different ear tip size options.
Thanks. I think it's a great idea. I love it. And I think as long as you have it priced well, you'll be able to be very successful with it. And I don't say that often.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, pricing is really important. We have a very clear and quick return on investment with the device, especially with an audiology, which makes it another great reason for our beachhead. In audiology, they can charge whatever they want. Our customers charge anywhere from like $75 a patient to $150 a patient, and people are happy to pay it so they don't have to spend the time and the effort having to go out to an ENT. And also this is a good experience for the patient. So they don't just make money off selling more hearing aids or on the money on having to repair them, but they also make money on performing the procedure for these patients.
It's the neti pot of ears.
Yeah. There's actually a device that I like called the Navage, Navage, which is like an automated neti pot. And people love that thing. And I think there's a lot of similarities between us and that company, and then us and Sonicare. Essentially the automated neti pot and the Sonicare toothbrush have similar stories in how they went from something that was very traditional, hadn't changed in a long time, to something for the 21st century.
What will the price point be for consumers?
Yeah, it's a good question. My answer for now is we have some ideas, but we don't know for sure yet. It will be affordable, but it will be somewhat of a premium option, right? Because you'll see a lot of things today. All the gimmicky devices you'll see on Amazon, they can range from for like $30 to over $100. So we want to really come out with something that's physician recommended. And that is part of our go-to-market, by the way, is that audiologists and primary care physicians and ENTs would recommend our consumer device to the patients who actually have this problem. That's how you start off, just like Sonicare did with dental offices, right?
It'll be 2 versions, the professional one and the consumer one?
Correct. Yeah, they would be separate versions. The consumer one would be aimed more towards a preventative device, so lower pressure. It'll be easier to use at home, so it's not such a large device. The headset version right now is meant for clinicians to use with a bit of higher pressure. So those are our assumptions on consumer right now, is that it'd be somewhat of a different device.
I'm sure you'll get to it, but the ones that you have in market now, and how many have you created, sold? What's
Yeah, so we're in
how
nearly
far along
200.
are you? When did you get your approval?
Yeah, so we're in nearly 200 clinics now, just within a year. And when we thought we would kick off our Series A, which we're in the process of raising right now, we thought we'd be in about 20 clinics. So we very quickly went from 20 clinics to 200 clinics. And now we have just a massive pipeline of opportunities for us to grow our team and execute on. And that's what we're doing in 2023. It's really
I'm
just
impressed you haven't run your Series A yet.
Yeah, we're in the process of raising the Series A right now.
This is all friends and family money so far?
Yeah, actually, that's a good story there, is that we did a lot with a very small amount of capital for a medical device company. We raised a $4 million seed round. That was $2 million back in like 2018, 2019, and then another $2 million at the end of 2021. So we did a lot with a very small amount of capital, all the way from an idea on a piece of paper, through prototyping, through clinical trials, through the 510(k) process, through manufacturing, into the market with initial revenue.
Very impressive. Andrea, how do you want us to pronounce it? I know it's not the real name, but how do you prefer it?
Andrea is fine.
Andrea.
Yeah, I'm wondering about your patent strategy, given that it is a sort of first of its kind device.
Yeah, we have great patents on it too, actually. So we work with Cooley, and they've been fantastic to work with. If anyone wants a recommendation to an IP lawyer, just reach out to me. I'm happy to connect you with the team that we work with. But we've built a really strong and I think broad patent protection around our device already. So the method of irrigation into the ear with microsuction back out, and additional protection on the disposables themselves. So we'll just continue to build a moat around our IP. I think as this gets larger and larger, you might see competitors pop up like you did, with Oral-B and whatnot, but I don't necessarily see it as a bad thing. I think it's the person with the strongest brand at the end of the day wins. And we have that very strong first mover advantage. Plus we're spending all that extra time and effort working with physicians and actually having them use our product before we go consumer.
Yeah, having patentability and so just keeping an eye on what's happening and who's filing early. So having patent alerts set up, I think it'll be crucial for you. And yeah, keep your portfolio active and keep filing provisionals, even if you just think that that's a direction you might be going on, but you don't have enough details. Like keep filing provisionals that are cheaper, but having your the dates, the early priority dates for you secure, that'll be key in preventing others and copying or just improving on the device.
Yeah, that's great. That's great advice. We've done some of that already. I think there's always more we can continue to do.
Cool.
Jan?
Yeah, being a packaging person, I'm looking at your device. Are you battery or rechargeable? And you got a lot of moving parts there. So I would think shock and vibration are going to be an issue for your product. I don't know what you've done. So
yeah, it's a rechargeable lithium ion battery inside of the device. So everything is contained within there. The pumps, the vacuum pump, the water pump, all the wiring, the circuit boards, and the batteries are all within the device that are not accessible. It already today feels very much like a consumer device. And that's on purpose, is that we want this to feel like it's something accessible. We're essentially democratizing access to ear care here.
So you're using small batteries?
That's correct. Yeah, they're small batteries.
Just want to make sure, because there are a bunch of regulations on how you ship that stuff. So
that's correct. Yeah. Yeah. We've had to follow all those too.
I have to interject, and Jan's question, which is of course nothing I would have even begun to consider, is what makes me enjoy these calls so much, because we are all coming at this from very different disciplines. In fact, Rick called me this week to thank me for this group, because he has people to refer in basically every discipline. And it was Jan in particular who's like, I just got off the phone with Jan, and so really thank you, everybody. This is a blessing. Thanks.
Yeah, this is great. This is really great.
Yeah, Jan, that's coming. They're getting their ducks in a row.
Yeah, no, that sterilization stuff was fun. No, because you've got a lot of pieces that fit together. So it just concerns me. I don't know your materials or the other stuff. You've only shipped 200 or so of these from what you're saying. And it's just, there's potential issues. And I just was concerned, and I don't know where you are on that.
I think we've done a good job so far, and Marin's helped us with some of that too. And I think there's only just more and more that needs to be built out as we start to scale. We've gone from this R&D phase now into a scaling phase, and we have some great partners to do that with. So I'm sure there'll be plenty of more issues for us to resolve, and we just need to make sure we have the right people around us to give us the proper advice to help us avoid some of those at least.
Yeah, you perked me with Seattle. I'm sorry, he just perked me with Seattle since I'm in Vancouver. So
Vancouver, BC, or Vancouver?
No, here down south by Portland.
Awesome. Yeah, great.
Andrea, you had something else? No, okay. Eddie?
Hi, Sahil. Two quick questions. So, because I came in a few minutes late, have you got what sort of clinical data is there on improvements that people experience, and is that just is it measurable in terms of like decibels or reductions of tinnitus? And the other question I have is how often are people expected to be using this?
Yeah, it's a good question. So for the answer for consumers, we don't know yet. There's a lot of research we still need to do in consumer. We just know that there's a big need there and a big want there. And we'll continue to research that and validate it and create a product to solve those needs. Sorry, I'm going to just go here real quick because it's a little gross. But anyway, you see the before and after pictures here. The reason I'm bringing this up is we recently completed a trial of 100 ears with the University of Washington's Primary Care Innovation Labs, kind of the perfect partner for us. And what we showed here is that we had a 92% success rate, dramatically reducing and completely cleaning out all the wax within the ear canals for these impactions. And that's compared to a 30% failure rate that they have in primary care today. And it's with roughly a 2-minute procedure. So just a few cycles of the device to treat even severe impactions. And each cycle is 30 seconds.
Yeah, I put in the chat that you should definitely be cross-marketing with Dr. Pimplebopper.
Yeah, I'm sure there are a lot of great marketing partnerships that we can be doing.
Speaking of marketing, now this will be, I know you probably put a lot of time and money into your marketing. One thing that I would do is that I would recommend is maybe adding a bright, bold color into there, because it literally blends in with every single thing on the market.
Sure.
And you don't want to do that, particularly when you're at trade shows and talking with physicians and stuff like that. You want to be in that sea. You want to be able to be noticed, and you're not going to be noticed.
You just went invisible off the screen as you said that.
It's a great point. We've actually spent very, very little on marketing so far, which is actually another, I think, good validation point for us, is that we've had all this traction and demand with very little marketing dollars spent. And that'll be a big focus for us going forward. I think medical device companies traditionally don't spend enough time and focus on marketing. I think we're lucky to have a product that is highly marketable. So even when we go to conferences, we're always the busiest booth because people want to come by and they see the demo and then a crowd forms around it and everybody's pulling out their phones and taking videos. So there's this natural feeling of wanting to share this. And that's something we definitely want to be taking advantage of.
Yeah,
having Series A raise, because I'm like, boy, I wish I had some money to give you.
Yeah, we're doing well with the round, definitely.
Having, just as a trade show booth, having a visual animation of what it looks like internally in the ear as it's being cleaned out, a micro camera on a huge, massive screen for a trade show is all you need. Yep. And it shows exactly, it will speak the story more than anything, but you need something visually appealing to really bring home the money, because as you just said, this is all about who can get the most market share as quickly as possible. Mm-hmm. And so if you can capture their attention within 2 seconds with a video of that nature, they know exactly what's happening. You have the market share, as long as you can get to as many places in the globe as possible, as fast as possible.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. And actually, I think the in-ear animation is a great idea. We don't have that yet, but what we do have on our website, we like to show a lot of patient videos. So we'll just, on our kind of booth and at conferences, which we don't spend a lot of time or effort or money on yet, but we will just show actual patient videos. If you guys want to see some more gross ones, we'll just have this playing on loop at our booth, and that's definitely an attention grabber too. So yeah. I think that there's a lot more that we can do marketing wise. And, what you've seen from us so far, especially on our website, is just the earliest beginnings of it all.
Yeah. Even side by side, one on the interior, one on the exterior, really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
So even if this had, even on your 8% that didn't have a success, my guess is you were able to use one of the earwax softening compounds, and then repeat it successfully, but for your 92, but they still would walk out of the audiologist's office without that impacted earwax thing going on.
Yeah, so for the small percentage that we didn't remove there, and the device will only get better and better. That's our first generation device. Now we've treated thousands of patients in the real world, and we have a lot more data. So our 2.0 version is actually coming out in Q1 of next year, and that already has some ergonomic improvements, ear tip improvements to make the device just even better. And that, to answer your question, if those patients were pre-treated, so they had some softener done ahead of time, either themselves or in office for even like 10, 15 minutes. A lot of time ENTs will do that. They'll put a softener in the patient's ears for 10, 15 minutes, let them sit, bring them back in before they do microsuction. So if those patients were to have some proper pre-treatment, it would be even higher than the 92.
Is yours a class 2 device?
We're actually class 1. So we're class 1 510K, which is a little bit more rare. Our predicate is simply a syringe. So what they use today for ear cleaning. So we had to go through the 510K, which honestly was a great thing for us. It helped us build a much better product. Everything is so much more buttoned up than it would have been if we hadn't had to do a 510K. And we are the only FDA cleared, 510K cleared ear cleaning device. So we are class 1 by standard, obviously the lowest risk, the toothbrush being also class 1.
I couldn't help but when you mentioned this,
there's
I
tons of
looked
stuff.
up your, am I mute now? How many videos there are about ear cleaning.
Check that one out. 35 million on that one.
Mhm.
Yeah, these
There's
are all
13 million.
like,
Both
yeah,
Greek
that one
plus
was, I've seen that one too.
35 million.
These are all big ones like Insider Beauty, doing Business Insider, a lot of mainstream media doing videos like this just because they're getting views. So you probably won't see anything about our device on there yet.
Yeah. Yeah, these are quite mild, but I'm sure you keep track of these and you're aware of these.
Yeah. We've kind of been in this mode of we don't do any marketing. You'll see some of it on TikTok from that one customer posting on TikTok, but we have just been overwhelmed with all the demand already. So that's what our round right now is for us to just be able to build product, build our team. We're a 4-person team today. So we need to build our team out so we can go out and start scaling things up. And if anyone has a VP of marketing in mind, that's a role that we're hiring.
I know a guy.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Tell me about this product.
That's a product very similar to the ear wash system. It's almost exactly the same product. You'll see it quite a bit within audiology, but it is expensive. It's a 20-year-old product.
How much is it?
It's about, I think, $3,500.
And how much have you been selling into audiology offices at?
We sell it at different prices right now. We have early adopter pricing. Ours will be around the same price, but that includes the disposables. The device itself is under $1,000. And then the disposables that we have are $9 per ear currently. That's for early adopter pricing.
Oh, here we go. This one looks like a
That's
gold.
I've seen that one. You guys probably don't want to watch that right now. It's a pretty gnarly one.
Okay, the irrigator, who's this?
Yeah, that's a competing device in a way.
So there are a number of them.
Yeah, there are a lot of older devices. There are some, like I said, the Welch Allen ear wash system was the one that had the most traction. That wasn't a syringe or a spray bottle. So by far, the standard care is still a syringe or a spray bottle. But other than that, there are devices like the Welch Allen ear wash system and so on.
It's interesting. An ear cleaning camera.
Yeah, so that's the one I was talking about where people are spending $100 at home on something like that to go digging in your ear today. It's obviously not very safe to do that, but if people are spending the money, it's, I think, a good proof point for us.
Hey, I know that guy.
Yeah, you won't see much about us yet, but that's kind of our next phase.
Okay.
Yeah, your website shows $2,500 for a 1-year bundle.
Yeah, so that's the device and all the disposables you need for a year upfront.
Tell us about the disposable.
So it's the ear tip that goes into the canal.
Go ahead and share your screen again, if you would.
Yep. So you'll see if you go to our products page here, this is a bundle. So we have a 1-year bundle, a 6-month bundle. This is our early adopter pricing right now. And then these are the disposables. So the ear tip right here, and then this waste container. So it's going to be the ear tip and waste container per patient that are thrown away. And this is how you put the ear tip on and that waste container on. So currently we charge about $9 per ear for that. Again, early adopter pricing, it'll continue to go up a bit as we start to scale.
So each?
Yeah, per ear.
Each procedure means $72 to you?
No, each procedure means, if you're doing both ears, currently means $18 to us out of the $50 reimbursement or the $75 to $150 fee that you're charging. So this is a box of disposables.
Oh, I see. And that comes with 4 and 4, I see.
Yeah. So we package for the bundles, we package it all together. And this was actually, we started with a number of different pricing strategies. We started with giving away the device for free, charging for disposables. Early adopters were saying that, there's too much value here. You should be charging for the device. So we started charging just for the device itself, along with the disposables that you would buy every month. But then we had customers saying it's annoying to come back to your website every month and buy more disposables, because typically they have a distributor to get their supplies from. So it's an added step. So they just asked if they could buy it all up front for a year or for 6 months. So I think it's rare that a medical device company is able to bundle so many disposables with that initial sale. But that's how we sell the product today.
So in between the ear tips and the container, the two disposables, I assume there's some kind of a channel that through which the dirty liquid goes through. How is that cleaned?
Yeah, it's really easy to clean. And that was part of our 510K. We had to do all the, the cleaning validation and whatnot too. So the device is wiped down with an alcohol wipe, and then you will pour alcohol or take, like a lumen brush, and you can clean that bottom channel. So there are two separate channels. The channel that brings the water into the ear, you might be able to see it actually right here. So there's two channels right here. You can kind of see it, but this is where the water goes into the ear. This little hole back here that feeds the water through the water pump into the ear. That's one separate channel. And then you have this larger hole down here. That's where the waste is coming back out into this bottom channel. So they're completely separate from clean to waste. And then it's easy to clean between each patient by pouring alcohol through there, using a lumen brush to simply clean that with alcohol.
David? David, unmute.
Yeah. Let me come off mute here. Yeah, fascinating. It went too fast on that slide where you showed, I think it was device success. But if it's device or procedural success, what's the objective criteria you use to grade that? And
yeah,
maybe-
so it depends on the use. Typically what a clinician is trying to do is resolve your symptoms in primary care. So as I think Ryan mentioned earlier, is that you don't need to have a completely crystal clear ear. Some ear wax is good. It's just the issue when it becomes impacted. So it's okay to leave a small amount of wax in the ear. It doesn't need to be completely clean, but you want to remove that impaction so you can see the eardrum, or so that person's symptoms are resolved, like, conductive hearing loss or pain, infection, vertigo, whatever.
So what scale did you use to do that? I mean,
a 0 to 3 scale. So 0 meaning no wax in the ear, 3 meaning a complete impaction where you couldn't see the eardrum at all.
Okay, and then 1 and 2 in between, basically, kind of a Likert analysis in a way.
It's really simple. I mean, you take pictures before and after, and then you have different clinicians rate them, and that's how we had those results.
And did you call that device success, or did you call that procedural success? I was just.
It's device success. That's what you're using to clean the ears.
Yeah. All right.
Marin?
But it could be. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I was just gonna make a comment. Sorry, I lost it. Never mind.
No worries.
Eddie?
Sahil, you have a great device. I'm curious to know how you clean the irrigant fluid between the soft cushions, the earmuff cushions, and the
housing of the device.
Yeah, right.
That's a really good question. I've actually haven't had someone ask me that yet. We've made improvements on that too. So on our 2.0 version coming out, it's even more sealed around that, so that no small amount of water is getting around that ear pad. So it's more flush with the housing. So that's where we are today, is that we're making those small improvements that either make the procedure even faster, or make the device better ergonomically, or easier to clean, or so on. So that's kind of what the improvements you'll continue to see in the product are. So good question there. Today you have to kind of get in there with an alcohol wipe, and we've watched them do it. So we've made a small improvement there where it lays more flush with the housing.
You can avoid that completely with a silicone cushion without the angled creases.
Yeah.
Like sometimes what you find on CPAP nasal masks, and it would just rinse clean.
Yeah, it's a good idea. We'll have to think about that more.
Okay.
I put Sahil's email address in the chat, so you.
Yeah, no, seriously, please. If anybody, if you have any thoughts,
So everybody.
Yeah, if you have any thoughts or questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to seek more advice from all of you.
Jonathan?
Yeah, sorry for joining late, but nice. I got the gist of it. I wanted to let you know, I think there's a great opportunity in the med spa area. I mean, the ear is a sign of aging. There's a lot of little minor wrinkles around the ear. And you'd be surprised at all the different specialized facials that are being done today. And I think you could actually create a TikTok trend around ear facials and stuff like that.
Yeah, we've actually had those type of customers reach out to us too. I think there's a really interesting opportunities, and I think we'll start to focus on, and there's just so many places we can expand. So the clinical business alone is massive, from audiology to primary care, ENT, nursing homes, retail clinics, and government, military, and then even places like med spas and so on. It's just never ending there. And then obviously that's all just in the US alone. You would expand it beyond that. And then we'll focus on our clinical business first, continue to expand there, further research our consumer and pediatric opportunities, and then launch those products in 2024 or a little bit beyond that.
Nice. Congratulations.
Thank you.
My friend Luke is uncharacteristically silent because it's his child's birthday and it's very noisy there. So I'll read for you. He asks about what class it is. You answered that earlier. You said class 1 exempt.
Class 1 510K.
510K exempt.
No, not exempt. We are we did a 510K.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pardon me. And then he said, does one ear tip size fit all?
So we currently have 2 ear tip sizes that fits almost everybody. So for adults, we have 2 ear tip sizes, one for average or larger canal, and then one for more narrow or bendy canals. For pediatrics, we would do a separate ear tip, very similar to an otoscope, having different ear tip sizes.
And I'll read this. I don't understand the question myself. Any difficulties defining applied part patient connections?
I'm not sure.
I don't know what that means either. So Luke, if you want to follow up with another written comment. Andreas?
Yeah, I just had a sort of a follow-up question on the pediatric side. I mean, it sounds like you're developing a device that'll work on that, or at least it's on the radar. Have you done any work on tolerability of this? I mean, how do people feel about the procedure? Does it hurt? Does it not hurt? Is it better than a traditional cleaning? Because I know in the pediatric side, I mean, that tolerability question is always a huge issue, especially when you're dealing with the FDA.
Yeah.
And in our product, it seems like the ear cleaning, we did a bunch of tolerability work to get our device cleared for use in an office setting. And it seemed like the ear cleaning actually often gets more of a reaction in terms of, being a non-tolerable using the traditional curette than you would with us actually putting the tympanostomy in, which is actually making an incision into the eardrum. So the child reacts, more strenuously to having their ears cleaned. So I think that's just something to keep in mind as you're developing in the pediatric market, and also would, I think a good customer selling point if you can somehow compare to, how do you feel compared to traditional?
Yeah. So to answer that quickly, so we had 90%, nearly 90% of patients in our UW study say, compared to ones that, the subset of patients who had an ear cleaning done before by a clinician, whether that be ear syringing in primary care or ENT with microsuctioning, nearly 90% of them said that they had a better or much better experience with our device. So I think, you have 2 sides of it. It's interesting to see with different patients too. You probably saw this, is that you have some patients who feel like it's a spa, and then some people who feel like it's a little bit of like a car wash for your ears. But I think overall, relatively a much better experience. And, that's another good point that you bring up with the curettes and with microsuctioning. That's why ENTs are really the only ones who will be able to go deep into your ear with a microscope and suction and extract that wax, because it's risky. It's risky to go be digging in somebody's ear with a curette. A lot of time with curettes, they don't have even, the lighting or anything like that to be able to do it. So ENTs are the really only ones that will continue to use microsuction. Otherwise, you need a significant amount of training if you're going to have, an MA or someone else do microsuction on a patient. That's another good selling point for us, is that it's not very realistic to train everybody on microsuction, though it is a lot easier to train somebody to use our device. It takes an hour of watching videos online for an MA to start using this in an urgent care.
Thanks.
Ryan?
Yeah. In addition to that, you have to have the microscope in a room available, and sometimes there's a patient in there. And I think the microsuction, you have data and experiences on this. So tell me if this matches what you found, but I think the microsuction is maybe better than other procedures because often you have a video and you can see what the provider is doing, whereas when you're in an office and somebody's pulling out a syringe, it's very unpleasant. It's very threatening because somebody, let me pull out this bazooka and squirt it into your ear. You can't see what's going on. It's just very threatening.
It's a blind procedure. Yeah. I mean,
I'm talking about threatening to the patient. It feels threatening when somebody pulls out this big metal device and says, I'm just going to put this in your ear, and you can't see what's going on when that's being done to you. So, having a microscope, perhaps is more threatening because you're in a chair and there's a big equipment around and everything else, but maybe not really, because, it's it's a setting where you have maybe a surgeon, or it's a surgeon's office is doing it, and you're seeing it on the video. In many ways, it's less threatening than just having somebody pull out this big metal thing. They're a bit frightening.
Yeah, I think it's I mean, I would definitely trust, ENT surgeons to perform an ear cleaning on me, but it's difficult to translate that training beyond the ENT surgeon. That's why we developed our product with a number of ENTs, is because how do you democratize, care for this procedure and not send so many patients to the ENT? We have
at the top of the hour, I'm going to exert my executive privilege and redirect and ask you, with the benefit of Nick Anderson having joined us, could you talk to us a little bit about your reimbursement strategy? Sahil?
Yeah, so we fit into existing CPT codes today. We use the same code that the Welch Allyn device had used for a decade. So, for that standpoint, we got really lucky, is that we just fit into existing CPT codes today. And then also in audiology, it's cash pay. Thank you, Elizabeth. And I think Marin also hopped off.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that's, pretty straightforward. Those are codes that have been around for a long time.
Nick, I know you just joined, if you want to come off mute. I think you get the gist of what he's working on. He's presently in clinician offices, and he's looking for moving forward and to the consumer market as well. Do you have any thoughts as the reimbursement expert I know on the product?
No, thanks. Yeah, and I'm sorry, I was on a call with a client for a few minutes at the beginning of the call, but normally when I hear, that we fit into a CPT code or something, my blood runs chill, because I'm like, that's, just because there's a code doesn't mean you'll get paid for it. But there is this ineffable, indescribable line, I don't even know what to call it, a threshold of uniqueness or danger or something where, yeah, you can fit in. If there's a DRG for a thing that or a CPT code for something that already exists, where the insurance company says, look, we don't care, that there's bigger fish to fry in this world. Insurance companies started to do this in circa 2010 with pacemakers, and to say, we're not going to review pacemakers anymore. A pacemaker is a pacemaker is a pacemaker. If yours is MRI compatible, knock yourself out. Here's the CPT code, here's the HCPCS code, here's what we pay. Hospital, you choose which pacemaker you want to use. And that's for a heavy duty major medical device. But for something like this, Sahil, where you may absolutely be correct, you probably know better than I do, because you've been in this space.
Living it, right?
What that threshold is, where the insurance company is not going to look into this. It's just so low on their threshold of like, we need to be examining whole exome sequencing that is $5,000 and every physician in the planet wants to use it. Sahil, knock yourself out with your thing. And you're like, good. Like, I will let you demean me, that I don't want to be on your radar. That right. CPT code 12345 pays a doctor $20 for doing it. HCPCS code X923 pays $12, which is what the cost is for our device. I don't want the insurance company to know I exist. With that HCPCS code and that CPT code, everybody's happy. And the insurance company says, great, that's what we pay, and we're not asking for an RCT with 1 trillion patients to show that you're—
I'm confused, Nick. Are you saying that his device is low on the totem pole, insurance companies aren't going to pay attention, and that's good, or that's bad?
Perhaps that's good. I'm saying I think that that's good. This, again, not knowing the device, because I kind of missed the first half of this, that if this is, Sahil has to walk the fine line of saying, I'm just a ear device that does the following, which you choke to do, because you go, I'm not just that. I invented a better thing. And you go, great, go tell the physicians that you're an order of magnitude better and that you're amazing. But when you talk to the insurance companies, go, guys, I'm just another ear thing.
Yeah. And Sahil, is that what you did?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's not
doing an irrigation.
Yeah, I think that's where we fit in, is that we are, our predicate is a syringe. We are under the same, codes as syringing. So I think, and then we also have microsuction. So there are 2 codes. The clinician can decide which code to use for our device. And that's where we leave it.
And I think the key thing is that if the reimbursement is low, but your consumable is low, then the savings that the folks get on the procedure time justifies everything else. And as long as you're making margin on your on your consumable, then everybody's happy.
Yeah, there's essentially two main value propositions we have today is that, to the audiology industry, treat patients at the initial point of care, don't refer them out, right? And you have something that's easy, safe, quick, and effective to use now. And then on the healthcare system side, when we sell to them, it's, hey, pull the data on how many patients you're referring out from primary care to ENT. We can solve that problem with our device that's FDA cleared, again, quick, effective, and easy to use with your MA in your urgent care setting. And you're going to be saving a lot of time and a lot of your ENT's time, and you're, again, treating patients at the initial point of care and not referring them out.
The presentation that you had for us, if you bring it back up, are there slides in there that you're using in your Series A raise that talk about your projections?
Yeah, so I mean, those are all confidential and it's being recorded, so I'm not going to pull those up here. But yeah, this is kind of a non-confidential version of our deck.
Is there anything in that area
before
that you can
get
kind
too
of
before we get too far away from the reimbursement questions? How do you get around, doctors to say, okay, for that code, I get paid X and I'm using a product that costs me maybe a couple of dollars. Or I could use a bobby pin I got out of my wife's drawer for free, and I'm going to get the same amount of money reimbursed, whether I use this kind of more expensive device or one of these devices that are, pennies to dollars.
I wouldn't want my healthcare professional to take out a bobby pin and stick it in my ear. That wouldn't.
Well, there is something called an ear curette, which is like a stick with a loop on it, a metal stick with a loop on it, and it's basically a long bobby pin. And it's also also got an FDA product code.
Yeah, I'm not sure, sorry, what the question is, but I think we kind of went over that, the differences between.
But I know, I'm sorry, I got on late.
Ryan, you're an audiologist, not practicing, but one. What did you use curettes, and did you find them to be lacking? You're on mute.
Yeah, they're definitely lacking. Here's what they look like. Let's see if I can make this show up.
Yeah, they got the ones. Yeah,
just a plastic loop.
My question isn't really about the efficacy, but
it's
the
such a pain.
reimbursement.
It's such a pain to pull out. You've got trays to capture water. You've got a towel on somebody's ear. You've got water trickling down their neck with wax going onto this towel on their ear. It's just, it's at some point the experience is just bad enough, slow enough.
I don't know about Ryan. Of course, what your experience was. Did you own a shop? All of these things.
I worked mostly with cochlear implants, so this wasn't.
Would you endorse this and tell your shop, "Hey, we need to get this"?
Well, the images that Sahil showed earlier of the before and after, that was a lot of wax there. I would guess that it would probably take considerably longer to do that case with a syringe. I don't know what your data show, but that's just a guess. I haven't done this a whole lot because, like I said, I was in cochlear implants, so didn't really need that much access to the ear.
Yeah, very cool though.
The ear canal, I should say.
Yeah, I think to sum it up, Michelle, is that we're kind of replacing the syringes and spray bottles that they're using today with something that's automated, so the pressure and the experience is always the same for every patient. It's more effective because you have the irrigation with microsuction, so that is very key to the device. And then, I think when we talk to the audiology market, they just don't want to refer those patients out. They can charge whatever they want for the procedure. So it's actually an added service that they weren't really doing so much today that they can now make money off of and provide at that initial point of care. And then for the healthcare system, it's about, yes, it might be a more expensive device, obviously, but if you're not referring so many out to ENT, that's where the value is that this is a very high billed CPT code for ENTs, and your ENT surgeon should not be spending so much time cleaning out wax. So treat more patients at the initial point of care and don't lose money on the procedure. That's kind of where we fit in.
Nick just left a comment about something he bought on Amazon that he likes called the elephant ear.
That's one right here.
That's that one I just saw after.
Yep. Yeah. So that's probably, it's syringes and these kind of spray bottles are the two things you're most likely going to see when you go into primary care.
Okay. So Nick, when you look at the device that you really like and use relative to, I don't know if you had a chance to watch the video on the side, does that look like anything that I'm trying to get a sense for all of these folks that are aware of substitutions and what they use if they're excited about this device relative to those, because you're talking about an expense that you otherwise sidestep, like Michelle was.
Yeah, I think we're already well past that point, honestly, as a company. I do have to hop off here in a minute or so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think where we are today is that we've shown that we definitely have a very good solution for a very common problem. There are some, syringes, spray bottles, those kind of gimmicky products you'll see on Amazon. Or our whole idea, and I think this is a good slide to wrap up on, is that we're starting with clinical first. We want our device to be recognized as the new clinical standard of care for ear cleaning, and do that in your lowest cost setting with your lowest cost provider. That's what we're focused on right now. We have a lot of great customers and investors. We have physicians as investors. We have healthcare systems as investors. And then we want to take that brand, so the physician support, the clinical data, the FDA clearance, package that all up into a consumer version for preventative use at home, focusing on those 35 million Americans who actually have that problem. So that's a multi-billion-dollar industry just in the US with people who have this problem, not ones that want to use a Q-tip to clean their ear or dry their ear, but people who have an earwax problem who need it solved. So that's what we're focused on over the next few years. And we're doing our Series A right now to go accomplish that.
I'm very excited for you, and I'm grateful. I know that originally when I suggested today, you were like, I have a lot to do. And I talked you off that ledge because this was very
we're right in the middle of the Series A, but this was great. I'm glad that there was a great amount of activity and a lot of questions.
Yeah, a lot of interest in it. So Sahil, good luck. We'll keep in touch. I shared your email address. I'm going to use it to follow up with you. And I encourage others to as well. Next week, Munir is going to be calling us in from France and talking to us about quality. So I look forward to seeing you there. It will be our last episode for the year. Then we'll take our holiday break, and I'll see you all again in January. Sahil, again, thank you. Thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Happy holidays. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thanks.